Hello, Deacon Val here. Welcome to Fridays with Father. Father Gary's taking some time off, and so he's asked me to step in this week for him. And he asked me to just share a little bit about how I'm doing, just some updates. I'm doing well. I'm back in seminary at the moment for what's going to be my last semester here in seminary, God willing, before my priestly ordination. This past semester, as the whole year really was very challenging. This past semester also was a pretty challenging one for me too. As I'm sure many of you have gone through a challenging year yourselves. And for all the students, I feel your pain being a student during the COVID-19. It's not been easy. I think for me the biggest challenge was after I got ordained as a deacon. I looked forward to being in the parish on the weekends, being able to connect with people, be given a chance to be at Mass together and to preach, and to start living out the life, the vocation that I was called to. But for the whole semester, we were asked to stay in seminary, and so for a couple months we weren't able to leave the seminary. And even as an introvert, I can only imagine, the struggles of the extroverts these days. But even as an introvert, it was a little tough after a few months, just kind of feeling stuck, but I was able to come visit St. Joseph at the end of the semester, actually not too long ago, for the third Sunday of Advent, which was Gaudete Sunday. And I had the opportunity to preach, and that was an amazing experience. I remember as I was preparing to distribute communion, and as I saw the people getting ready, getting in line to receive communion, just that image in front of me, the people coming to receive communion, that was a spiritual consolation for me. Because at different times, just being in seminary the whole time, you start wondering, why am I here? Not because I don't know the answer, but, just being away from the parish, there's almost this kind of disconnect between what you're doing in seminary and the real purpose behind that, which is to serve God's people. And as I saw the people lining up to receive communion, I remembered why I'm in seminary, why I came to this place. Is to ultimately to feed God's people. God's people are hungry for Christ, and it's been a privilege at the seminary to learn about God's love for me and for the world, and to share that. In a couple of months when I become a priest, that will be my responsibility to feed God's people. And so yeah, I got to see some familiar faces, which was great to see, and I really do look forward to seeing many more of you after this semester is done, and I'll come back to St. Joseph. Yeah, I think that'll be great. Before I close, I want to share a little bit of message, something that's dear to my heart. Just a couple of days ago, we finished our silent retreat, and in the retreat, I read this book, which was very helpful for me to just gain some insights, the right perspective on how we can take some fruitful message from this past challenging year and to bring it into this the new year, which is still very much challenging us. And the struggles that we underwent this past year are the same struggles that we're going through at the moment this year. And I think for us, perhaps one of the most challenging thing is, what does this all mean? You know, it kind of feels meaningless. You know, what was the year 2020 all about? You know, COVID-19 just seems like just a random disaster. I think the struggle for a lot of us comes from not being to wrap our mind and our heart around what that means for us. And so I want to read a little section from the book I was reading. This is the book that I read during the retreat. The book is called Into Your Hands, Father, abandoning ourselves to the God who loves us. And in this section, it talks about how in God's plan, there is never a wasted struggle. There is never a wasted suffering. Our struggle and our pain is never wasted because God can use them. In itself, manure is repulsive and pollutes the air. However, the same horse bears it with much toil to the fields, where it produces a precious harvest of fine wheat or excellent wine. A harvest that would not have been so good if it had not received any fertilizer. Your own faults, which for the time being you have not mastered, in which you will never succeed in overcoming, are your manure. Give yourself to carrying them diligently to the field of God's good pleasure in true surrender. Spread your fertilizer over the good earth, and without the slightest doubt, precious and sweet fruits will grow from it with humble surrender. For me, that was very helpful because, this past year, I think many of us struggled with many things, just coping with the new restrictions, and also just a lot of isolations. Many of us are not able to be with our loved ones, our friends and families. And just being isolated, it just brings a whole lot of difficult challenges mentally, physically, spiritually. And in itself, as the author was describing, it's like a manure. It's stinky. It seems like it's good for nothing, but the insight that it is precisely manure that can fertilize and bring about good fruit from the field. I think that's a hopeful message for all of us. That, I don't know whether in the next few months things will all turn out well, but even if our current struggle and challenges continue, God is using that to bear fruit in our lives. That's the message that I'm going into this year with in the next few months as I prepare for my ordination. And I hope this message is helpful to you as well. And let's continue to remember each other in our prayer. And I hope that soon I will be able to come visit and see all of you. All right, God bless, and let's meet one another in our prayer.